In this video, we're going to be looking at how to play the acoustic guitar part for Lion and the Lamb. And this is based on the video that I posted, which the link is in the description below if you'd like to see the acoustic cover of that. It's based on the Bethel and Leeland version of the song, but we're playing it in the key of G. If you wanted to play it along with them in the original key, you're going to capo up to 4 and you can do the exact thing we're going to learn in this video, but you're going to capo 4 and still play it up here. But we're playing in the key of G, they do it in the key of B. So let's go ahead and dive in. So the first thing that we're going to be starting with is the intro. And rather than just playing the 1 chord or the G chord over the intro and just playing through the chords, we're going to try to actually add the lead line in that the electric guitar does to just make it more interesting. Again, this is based on the acoustic cover that I did, and so doing it as though the acoustic was the only instrument that we had to play with us. And so we're going to try to play that lead line, which sounds like this. The lead line goes... And the electric guitar does that. It's doing an octave higher. But this is the area we're going to do it in down here. And the trick is we want to do that while we play the chords at the same time. We're going to be playing only 3 strings at a time for this intro, but we're going to be strumming the whole thing to make it sound big and full and exciting. So we're going to have to do a lot of string muting. So at the beginning, we're going to start and we're just muting our 1st and 2nd string up on top, and then we're also muting our 5th string, the A string, down here. Hold on a second. Hey, I just realized while I was editing this video that I told you guys to mute the strings while we're doing this, but I didn't tell you how to mute the strings. So I just wanted to give you a quick example of how you're supposed to do that. So when we're muting strings, we just want to use an adjacent finger or a free finger to lightly touch whatever string we're not wanting to make any sound, so that it makes a dull thudding sound rather than sounding a full note. So in this example, like we're using our 2nd middle finger on the 6th string for that G, and so we're gonna be pushing down on the G on the tip of our finger, right? But we're gonna use the side of our finger just a little bit to just lightly touch that A string so that it's not gonna make any sound while we're playing. And also, our pinky and our ring finger are free because we're not playing that 1st and 2nd string, but we're gonna use them to just touch those strings so that they don't make any sound while we're strumming. So it's going to be different depending on what chords you're using or what notes you're trying to play, but you just want to use an adjacent finger or a free finger to lightly touch those notes so that they don't make any sound. All right, let's get back to the video. And so we're going to start with our middle finger, just doing like a G-shaped chord right here, except we're not using the top fingers. And that G string right there is the 1st note of our lead line, and then we're just going to walk up the lead line. So it goes here, and then we're going to put our 1st finger down right there in the 2nd fret on the 3rd string, and then our pinky's coming up to 4th fret on the 3rd string for that lead line. So it's 1, 2, 3. That's the first part of it. And then the chord switches to that A minor, and so we're going to move up our middle finger up to the A minor, and then that helps us up here. We're going to use our 3rd finger, go in 5th fret on that 3rd string to get that note change. And so again, we're only using these 3 strings at the moment. So we start with our 6th string, and we have our 4th string and our 3rd string. Those are the ones we're using. So we move up, and then we're going to shift up to that A, and we come down with our 1st finger into fret 4, and then we're going to go to the C chord. And so then we're using 5th string, 4th string, 3rd string, muting the others. And so it does this in the original lead line. And we can't quite articulate that as cleanly since we're strumming, but we're just going to strum. So it's just moving up and down from open, and then using our 1st finger for the 2nd fret on the 3rd string, and our pinky for the 4th fret on our 3rd string, and going up and down those. So that's our intro, just like that. So remember, watch out for those muted strings so you can really strum and make it feel big and full. And also, when you're up on the C chord up here, make sure you let that 4th string ring out. Otherwise, you're only getting 2 strings. and it just doesn't sound as full. So you have to lift this finger up, make sure it's nice and curved so that string is ringing out underneath. So one more time, just looking at that with a big full strum, sounds like this. 2, 3, go. From there. So that feels a lot better than just, if you're by yourself on acoustic, just strumming G chord, A minor, up to the C. And you can do that too, and that's great, especially if you're in a band and someone else is playing the lead line, then you want to back up and just do those chords. But when you're by yourself, we're just trying to look at how to make it feel a little more interesting during those instrumental sections. So then the rest of the song is pretty straightforward, just going through chords. So in the verse, we're going to look at a progression that's continuing the progression that was in the intro, but it's going to shift after doing those 3 chords. It's a G, A minor, C, and then it's going to shift over to an E minor, and then to the D, and to a C. And then as it's coming back up towards the chorus, we're going to head back to that D. So, goes like this. He's coming on the clouds, kings and kingdoms will bow down. I like to drop right here, just a note. I use my first finger just to get something a little different. And back up. And every chain will break, as broken hearts declare his praise. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? And then we'd be into the chorus. But so breaking that down a little bit, some things to keep in mind as you go through those chord changes is look for notes that stay common between chords. So if there's common notes between chords, like this G to the A minor 7 here, the pinky doesn't have to move. It's the same note. So make sure you don't lift it up. Keep it down. And then same thing as we come up to the C chord, keep that pinky down. It doesn't have to move, so there's less for your hand to do. And also, as you move between the chords, keep your hands close to the fretboard. Don't lift them up real high. Don't like fling them off like this, because then you're just losing your spot. You're losing a reference point for your fingers, and it takes longer and it's not as smooth. So as we go between them, let's try to keep our hands close and tight like that. And then we're going to drop down to the E minor and look at these 2 notes. They just sit there. They don't have to move, so we're only moving the top. And then we come back to a D, and so this one, our 3rd finger is going to be the common note between them. And then down to the C, again, that 3rd finger is the common note. And then back up to the D as we're heading to the chorus. So let's do that one more time. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. He's coming on the clouds, kings and kingdoms will bow down. And we're going to drop that note right there. Every chain will break, as broken hearts declare his praise. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? And now we're into the chorus section. But there's also another way of playing both the C and the D that can be nice to change it up as you go. Again, talking about making it feel smooth and full when you're just acoustic and making it feel interesting. When we're coming off of that C at the end of the verses and the D coming into the chorus at the end of the verses, sometimes instead of doing this C, it's nice to do more of like the traditional C shape, but I'm going to keep that pinky in place as kind of like a common note. For who can stop the... And then we're going to slide that whole shape right up to our D chord right here. And it gives us this really nice, pretty sound because we're actually doing a D suspended, but we're keeping the 3rd in there. So we have the 3rd and the 4th of the chord kind of pushing against each other, which gives us a little bit of tension, but also kind of a beautiful sound. And it just changes it up from the typical sound of doing this and this to, and it just has that nice kind of ring to it. So that's something to think about too, is that just because you have one shape of playing a chord, sometimes it's really nice to have multiple shapes to play with so you can just change things up. So just because I know a C chord like this It doesn't mean it's the only C chord. There's lots of different ways to play it, and use the one that feels nice in the setting that you're in. So in the chorus section, obviously we're starting on that G chord, and then we're going to move through G, D, E minor, and there's going to be a C in it later. So, our God is the Lion of Judah. And on that D, sometimes I keep it as a D sus right there, keeping my pinky on. It just feels nice and smooth. Again, if you're playing with a band and you have other people to consider, you need to make sure you're doing the same thing as them. But when you're just playing by yourself acoustic, you can kind of be a little more free and just do what you feel like doing at the moment and make sure that it flows and feels nice. So, chorus. Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battle. Every knee will bow before Him. And then the second half of the chorus kind of does the same thing. It just repeats. So again, as you saw, watch for those common notes between the chords as you go, so that it feels nice and smooth and tight. So then the other section of the song is the instrumental and the bridge, which the instrumental is the same thing as the bridge. And again, I use that same shape that we were just talking about with the C and the D in that one. So we're going to start down on the A minor, right here. Again, that pinky is in place, and it's going to move up to a G over B. So that means our bass note on our G chord, it's our G chord, except we're removing the lowest note here and we're making the bass note the B instead of the G. So that's a G over a B. So from the A minor, 7, up to the G with the B in the bass, G over B. And so having that common note again here, and they're going to move up to, you could either go to this C shape here, or we could do this one, and then shift it up to a D, which we're doing the add 4 here. And it just sounds really nice and pretty, especially for the instrumental. It gives it just a little bit of something that feels extra rather than just the standard chords. So if we're coming out of the chorus, it sounds like this. Every knee will bow before Him. Just kind of making it pretty, and you can pick a little bit if you want to. And then we're going to move up to that nice D add 4 chord. And then it just kind of keeps playing that through the bridge as it starts singing. And as it progresses through the bridge, we just start to build a little bit more. And so then that's going to head back to our chorus again. But through that also, it's really important to have dynamics as you play. And so as we started off that bridge, we'll start off, and you'll see if you watch the video of the cover that I did, we're going to start out very light and maybe doing a little picking, just light strumming, and then it starts to strum a little bit more as the vocal comes in. And then as it repeats the bridge, then we start to kind of pound on it, doing a straight downbeat on our strums. And then for the last one around, you start making it bigger, until you get to that last one, and it's just a really nice, loud, full strum. So it feels like the song is moving somewhere. And that's the same from beginning to end of the song. You want to have a path of motion that's kind of bringing the song up and then coming down. And that's called dynamics, moving up in volume and intensity and then back down in volume and intensity, and having a range between those so the song feels like it's going somewhere. So now we've covered each of the sections of the song. We've covered the chords for the intro, the verses, the chorus, the instrumental, and the bridge. So you can take those pieces, and as you work on those and learn those, you can go in the link in the description below to the acoustic cover that I did of it that's using these shapes. Follow along and learn those parts. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it helped you to learn how to play this song better, and maybe in a way that you haven't done before. Thanks for watching.